Okay, so I'm with Mike the Warrior Wilkinson. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. Not done one of these for a while, but it feels good to be doing one, to be honest, because next year I'll be back fighting again next year, obviously. Coming back from Australia and back straight into lockdown and then
Yeah.
shows getting cancelled. I thought just put it on the back burner until next year. So, it feels good doing one, to be honest.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I noticed you hadn't fought since March of last year. Obviously, it's been tough this year with the pandemic, but you're still, and there's been no smaller shows this year, but you're still actively looking for fights this year, or you're just putting it all until next year?
No, no, not this year. Because obviously, when I got back from Australia, I was living at my sister's house, so I didn't really have a base. And obviously, I was trying to get a fight. I tried to start a camp up, and then my first sparring session, I got a cut. Someone threw a skip knee head kick, not wearing knee pads,
Yeah.
gashed it open. So I was out of the fight anyway. And then the show got cancelled anyway. That was on Probellum.
Yeah.
So obviously that went wrong, and I've just moved into a new house with the missus. So I'm just trying to get stable within myself first, and then obviously I've put it on the back burner until next year, so 2021, so it doesn't affect me because it does annoy me not be. I love training to fight, so
Yeah.
if I mentally can prepare for next year, then it's all good missing this year.
Yeah. Do you know which promotion is going to be next year then?
Well, speaking to my coach and that, obviously we've having such a long layoff, and probably just get two quick ones back to back, knock the dust off, or but they said I can either go straight into Bellator or do it knock the dust off on two other shows. I don't know which ones. Whatever shows arise at the time when I'm fit to fight, uh, knock the cobwebs off, and then we'll go. But I think I'm going to do that. Get the two first up back to back when I'm fit, and then the ball's in my court then because I'm coming off two wins. And I'll get a better contract than my coach says, so I'll go down that route. I'm in no rush.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bellator there. They're doing a lot with their European expansion, aren't they? That would be something that I think for any UK fighter would be good to be a part of.
Oh, amazing! Bellator they're growing so fast and so big as an organisation. Like when I was in the UFC, there wasn't really another organisation. It was like you're either on the domestic scene or you're in the UFC. But since obviously being out in and out of the scene now, what my coaches said, it's like you've got all these shows now where like they're paying just as good or if not better than the UFC with some of the fighters, with some of the contracts that they're giving out. Like you've got your Bellator, your KSW, and your ONE FC, and so on. So for Bellator to be where they're at now with the type of fighters that they've got on the caliber of the fighters what they've got on the roster is next to none, and I'd be so happy and honoured to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I've spoken to a couple of Bellator Europe fighters, and the first thing they mention is how much better the pay is there compared to.
Yeah, for sure. Because coming from the Ultimate Fighter, I was on the best of contracts anyway, so I had to win so many fights, and then have so many more fights, and it went up just 2,000 every time. So by the end of my last fight in the UFC, I was only on 10-10, and like you get all these fighters now. What my coach is telling me about, sort of like Lee Chadwick, who's a teammate of mine, he's doing well in Bellator now, and the money what he's on, it's like I'm like wow, I can't believe he's on that kind of money. It's a shock to me. So to know that I can be on that kind of money within the near future, if everything goes to plan, it's a real eye opener, and I'm excited to be involved.
So you grew up playing rugby league, I believe. How did you transition this into training MMA?
Well, it's funny. Well, yeah, I played a pretty high level at rugby league as well. So obviously, with the training, what was involved at that level, they brought in a wrestling coach, like a pin wrestling, freestyle wrestling, as part of our training regime. Even though I wasn't the biggest lad on the team, and it was like a one-to-one thing. I did pretty well for my size, and I kind of like fell in love with it. With also watching the UFC as being a fan of fighting, and I kind of like fell out of love with rugby and fell in love with the wrestling side of things. And then as time went on and a few things happened here and there, I kind of quit rugby and went straight into freestyle wrestling. And yeah, it was just that was the beginning. Then the rest is history.
And it was in your time before signing with the UFC that you fought possibly the biggest name that you fought. You fought Artem Lobov, who's obviously well known now because of his association with Conor McGregor. So tell me a bit about that fight.
I know, yeah. They had some low blow on. That was a good scrap, to be honest. It was a few years ago now. Yeah, obviously since him being on the Ultimate Fighter, only because of Conor, he's got the status that he's got now. It's kind of jokeable, really, but
Yeah.
he is a warrior and he is a tough lad. But by winning him, beating him in the fashion that I did, kind of give me a bit of a name for myself. And since then, I've tried to call him out on the bare knuckle scene, the bare knuckle boxing scene, but nothing ever came from it. He didn't bite to me tweets on Twitter or anything. I tried to set that up for this year. When I first got back, I was tweeting him, "Let's have it. Like, do you want your redemption? Let's do it in bare knuckle." Because obviously he's a star in the bare knuckle boxing scene, and it would have been a barn burner. That, so I was very keen for that, but nothing came from it. The management were in talks with the organisation, and nothing ever came. And obviously with Corona and all that shit, I was like, sod it. So I was just like, things weren't going to plan. So I was like, I'll just put everything on the back burner till next year.
So, not too long after that, I don't think, is when you filmed The Ultimate Fighter. Talk about that experience of living in the house and filming for reality TV.
Yeah, the Ultimate Fighter was probably the best but hardest thing I've ever had to do. And definitely the first and last. I would never do it again. It was 1 second, I was parking, mate. Yeah, it was it was very tricky. It was a weird one. Just to be in an house for 6 weeks with film crew filming you 24/7 and no music, no TV, no communication to the outside world, no magazines. It was a bit weird. It was it was a strange one. But at the same time, it was surreal because I'd only been fighting for 3 years, and then I was in the UFC on the Ultimate Fighter. And the next thing, I was a big fan, and then I had Dana White talking to me. It was a bit like I had pinching myself. Is this actually real? Like, what the fuck's going on? It was a bit like. It was weird, but yeah, don't get me wrong. It was an amazing experience, and I'm glad I was a part of it.
Yeah, and that was filmed in Australia, wasn't it? So, what was it like being over there for so long?
It was lovely. It was you could see over the Harbour Bridge. It was in Sydney, in some big mansion. It was lovely. But first, like I'd never experienced jet lag before, properly, and when we first got over there, we were stuck in a hotel for a week, trying to acclimatise and while they was getting things ready. And even then, there was no phones, no internet, no communication to anybody, no phone calls. Plus that with jet lag, so like you'd wake up at your sleeping pattern was knackered anyway, and say like 12 o'clock you'd have your dinner. I'd be like, some dinner. I thought, I'm in a bit of a food coma. I'd got sleep, thinking you just wanted a bit of a nap because you was in a food coma, and then you're waking up at 10 o'clock at night, then going shit. And it was like, and then you was up literally because you couldn't do anything. You just walking the halls at night, like thinking I'm going crazy here. That was mentally challenging as well beforehand. But then obviously when we passed that and was in the house and the places that we seen and obviously the view from where we were staying, it was like to living where I live in Leigh. It was like it was amazing. It was really good.
Talking about the level of training you got on the Ultimate Fighter, because you had some really good teammates, didn't you? Like Colin Fletcher, Norman Park, Brendan Loughnane. What was the level of training like? Because I imagine in that sort of situation it would be pretty intense.
Yeah, the training was very intense, but through being at ASW with all the lads down there and the high caliber that we've got there, with being the smallest, kind of put me in stead for that in the Ultimate Fighter. I was like, I didn't feel like my depth. I didn't feel like my depth a little bit. I'd probably say with the stand up, I wasn't solidified in my stand up. Then I was a bit of a brawler, but I could fight and I could stand and bang. But my technical aspect of things wasn't quite there then. So I was always fall back to my great wrestling style with catch wrestling. But with the wrestling side and on the floor, I felt comfortable. A couple of times with the stand up, I'd feel a little bit out. But then obviously that's what it's all about. It was the experience of things. It was the fact that I felt a little bit out of tune with the stand up kind of things. It kind of made me more hungry to learn it and to be a part of it. And it was a great experience.
Obviously the biggest name on that season though was Robert Whittaker. What was it like to live with him for 6 weeks? Because he comes across as just the nicest guy ever.
He was, to be honest, out of the lot of them, out of the Aussie team, he was probably the one that I spoke to the most because he was so down to earth and such a nice guy. And as you can see from him being how he is now, yeah, he was such a nice guy. And obviously to see what he's done now and what he's accomplished, it's amazing. And he deserves everything that he's achieved. He's an amazing guy and an even better fighter.
So after the Ultimate Fighter, when you got to the UFC, you were able to travel a lot. In UFC, you fought in Australia, Brazil, Sweden, and then back home in London. So what kind of experience did that give you?
Some crazy experiences, to be honest. The craziest one was Brazil in Fortaleza. It was like to have like Brazilians screaming "Uvamo here" and and I was like, no, what did he mean? But it's in my face in the hotel, and I'm like, what is she being nice or is she being mean to me? Like, what are they saying? Like, oh, you're gonna die. I'm like, oh, that's pretty nice, nice one. So obviously just that with being my second fight in the UFC, and obviously being the first fight on the main card, I was a bit like, looking back, I wasn't ready. Technical wise, and I wasn't ready probably for that mentally wise. Just through the experience of what I've been, just being in the game for such a short period of time. But I'm glad I did it. After that one, then it made me more mentally stronger than what I actually thought. Because obviously through that fight as well, being over there in Brazil, I had a terrible weight cut. I messed up with my hydration after making weight. Spiked my insulin too much, nearly fainted. I was wrapped around the toilet eating ice cream to try and bring me around. It was really bad. The day of and then after that, then I didn't feel right. To be honest, I probably shouldn't have fought. Like if the doctors would have, how it is now with all like the doctors and all like how they are with the health and safety aspects of things, how we're fighting. If a doctor would have seen me in Brazil, they wouldn't have allowed me to fight. I don't think. But it's one of them. It's like I ain't gonna bitch out and say I'm not fighting just because something went wrong. It's like I've gone to Brazil for a job and I'll try and execute that.
Was it a case of being in Brazil, they didn't have the doctors, or was it just a case of the sport at the time not being as like?
I think it was being in Fortaleza. Like there was no really nice places to get food. They said that we couldn't leave the hotel after 7:00, otherwise we were going to get mugged. We had to, if we did leave the hotel in the day, we had to be in threes. We couldn't go too far. We couldn't go one direction. We had to go another way. And they give us a map where we had to go. En route to the arena, we got escorted by the police over there with the assault rifles. They stopped all the roads. We was in caged minibuses or coaches, what have you. And it's like, I'm only going for a scrap. What's all this about?
That's got to be.
But even that in itself, it's like looking back. It's like at the time you're a bit like, oh, but looking back now, it's been some years. It's like, wow, that's an amazing thing to experience, as bad as what it was. I'm glad that I was part of that.
Got to be a tough experience at the time, though, mentally, both with that and obviously the way you're being treated by the Brazilian fans, really, because you're fighting on the road.
Yeah, for sure. Like obviously, things going wrong, the wake up going wrong, getting spoken to wrongly, and yeah, it was the odds wasn't in my favour, but I think all of it at the same time, it's just to prove how mentally tough you are, and I feel like I handled it pretty well. Obviously, the reason why in that fight as well, as the plan was to stand with Ronnie Jason and have a good bang with him, and then try and take him down at the end of the round to win the round. But because the weight cut went so wrong, and I didn't hydrate properly, and I didn't have an IV drip or anything, it was like I kind of knew in my head that if I take a shot, I'm going to feel it. So when I was in there, I'm thinking, man, it doesn't feel like didn't feel right within myself. Even the day of the fight, since after trying to fix myself after the weight cut, after having to rehydrate, didn't feel right. So that's why I went for the takedown straight away in the first round, because I didn't feel right. I got a beautiful double leg, but obviously doing a double leg on a lad who's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was in nappies would probably be a bad idea. And then a bit of false sense of security, and then he got the choke. So hats off to him.
Yeah. Another fight where you were really the bad guy in the eyes of the fans was Nicholas Backstrom, and that got to be one of the best moments of your career,
Oh yeah, for sure. Because obviously I was coming from a wrist reconstruction and a snapped hamstring, so I had quite a time off. And he was saying loads of things that they brought him in to lose. He's just a stepping stone for me. I'm going to be the next big thing and all that. He wants to fight Conor McGregor at the time. But because I'd gone through so much with my wrist, my hamstring, and so like bad shit, where my head was, to be fit and healthy and training again with Darren McCoach, Darren Morris, and all the lads there, to just be training with them on a daily basis gave me so much fire, and I was so excited to fight because I wasn't allowed to fight because my body wouldn't let me because I was injured. It was like nothing was going to fucking stop me. Nothing. Where my head was for that fight I was bulletproof. They could have put me with anyone, and I was so confident within that fight that nothing fazed me with what he was saying. He was like, "Yeah, all good. I'll just see you on Saturday, no problem." And then to get the knockout that I got, it was like it was meant to be. It was meant to be for me. That it was unbelievable. So yeah, the Sweden one was an unbelievable experience. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I watched that fight back last night, and it was the reaction for you and the reaction for him was night and day. And then what's that feeling like when you're able to shut the crowd up in the first round like that?
Oh, it was such an amazing feeling. It was like, I'm back. So obviously through coming off my first ever loss with Rona, and then they said it was could have been a career-ending injury with the wrist reconstruction and the hamstring. So coming off the first ever loss and then 2 serious injuries, and then to come back in that fashion was such an unbelievable feeling. And then to shut the fans up in his own backyard, to do it to him, because he was such a prick. And even after that fight, I knocked him out. I ordered a shitload of drinks who I was with, and I sent the bill to his room as well as that was like that was the icing on the cake for being such a knobhead. But yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah. We touched on the reality TV earlier, but another thing I forgot to mention at the time, you did a documentary with Manchester United, didn't you, as well? How was that?
Oh, MUTV, that was unbelievable. When I first got a phone call of someone saying it's Phil from MUTV, we've got your details from the UFC. I'm like, who's this? Like, what are you pranking me for? Like, fuck off. Like, what are you on about? Like, don't do that. I nearly put the phone down. I was like, yeah, are you being serious? I'm like, all right, I'll see you at Bolton Wrestling Club on Monday then. And he's like, all right, yeah, sweet, we sent me the address. I sent him the address thinking this is all a black day. And then he actually turned up. The film crew was on Monday morning. I was out to Darren McCoach thinking, what's going on? Because my coach is a diehard Manchester United fan. I'm a Manchester United fan. Don't get me wrong, but not like my coach. He's good at season ticket. He goes to all the matches and that. But yeah, the MUTV documentary was an amazing thing to have. I still have it now, so to have that for the rest of my life and show that to my children and grandchildren, it's a good thing. They always said as well that they wanted to do a part 2, but at the time, if you've watched the documentary, there's some personal stuff going on with my sister, with a fellow what died, and so at the time when they was like, we want to do a part 2, I was like, I'm not ready for that. I need to sort myself out. I need to fix things with my sister, and like I can't dedicate myself to that again because it was going on for so long. Yeah. So, but obviously, sometime in the future, when I'm back on track and I've got some good wins under my belt, who knows? It could be a part 2. I'd be happy to do that. Because I'm still in talks with the cameramen, Phil and Tom. So yeah, I'm always in talks with them still.
Yeah. After your spell with the UFC, you ended up having a couple of fights with ACB. What was that experience like fighting in Russia?
The Russian one was it was mad, to be honest, because I went to Russia thinking I was going to be fighting in loads of snow. I ended up being a really nice resort, and it was summer. I'm like, that's all this about. But then fighting in Russia, you've kind of got to knock them out to get a draw. Yeah. It was a weird fight. Fought this little tiny steroid guy, Russian. When first round, what happened now? I think I got him against the cage. Elbowing him, or he got me against the cage. I was elbowing him, and then the refs pulled us apart because when the elbows what we're throwing, if you get them a couple of times, you're going to drop them. And then the ref stopped it and like, give me 2 points. I'm like, I've never had 2 points ever in fighting. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? I don't understand. They understand the rules. So that was round 1 gone. The second round, I had his back. Punching him, side of the head. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for so many years. I know where I'm punching. And then he stopped, pulled me up, and like yellow carded me. I'm like, this isn't a game of fucking football, here. What's going on? I'm like, I'm there to ref. What's going on? I've literally, so for them 2 rounds, I was 2-0 then. I was 2 down. So the last round, I thought, I've got to stop him. And he was gassing because he was full of juice and he was like, dingy. He was gassing and he was running off. I was catching him, but he was running off, trying to take me down. And he just ran off for most of the last round. And when like the buzzer went, I'm like, I looked at my coat, I looked at Darren, I went, what the fuck's just gone on? Like, I've just had my pants pulled down. It's just not on. And I walked to the change rooms. I'm like, I can't believe what's just happened. And obviously, with it being in Russia and the type of people there, they said Wilkinson to the room. When I got back to the hotel, went into this hotel room. These loads of big Russians, there was loads of stacks of cash on the bed. I just went, thanks for coming. Just give me the money. I was like, right, it's in a bit.
So obviously you had your pro debut in 2009 and you fought on the UK regional scene a lot. What differences have you noticed between the regional scene when you started and today?
There's a lot more shows. People are not fighting who they're supposed to fight. Like when I first started off, I wanted to test myself, and I'm thinking, I know I can scrap, I know I can fight, I know what I've got, but I'm thinking, am I actually good at doing this? So the type of guy I am, and the people I was training with in the gym, it was like I want to fight people who are unbeaten. So I was always challenging myself, and I'm thinking, well, if I can beat him who's unbeaten, and I give him his first loss, then I know I'm pretty good. Do you know what I mean? Early in my career, but I feel like now a lot of people just want to get to the UFC. It's all about the UFC. So it's like they want to do everything in their power to protect themselves so they don't get a loss, so they can get underneath the bright lights. But the only thing by doing that is you're milking it, you're faking it. So when you do get under them bright lights, the nerves are going to hit you, and them little demons in your head are going, you cheated, you here, you failed. And then they've lost already then before they've even started. But it is the biggest growing sport in the world, I think, at the moment still. So to see all these shows going on, it's amazing. To see the amount of people who are doing it. And I'm not bagging it out. It's good to see all these shows. It's good to see all these new up-and-comers coming in. It's good to see.
So what do you think really needs to be done to push it even further and make it a mainstream sport in this country?
Say that again, mate. I couldn't hear you.
So what do you think needs to be done to make MMA a mainstream sport in the UK in the future?
I feel like we're just going to get better deals with certain TV channels and stuff. Like you've got to you cannot doing it on Facebook and your Facebook lives and all that. It's only going to get you so far. You need to have a bit of money behind you to be able to venture out and get these good sponsors and get these good deals with the TV. Because if you can get don't get me wrong, people on Facebook will only watch it on Facebook because they want to watch it. But if you can get it to a decent TV channel where the general public are going to see it, oh, well, there's nothing on TV, we'll see what this is about. Or such a body's friends fighting, or we'll give it a go. It's on here. Do you know what I mean? Not most of the public want to go on Facebook and want to do all this to watch a fight, but if it's on normal TV, and as well, if things are on normal TV, people respect it more. They think, oh, this is good, because like boxing, it's always on normal TV. So if you can get the MMA on TV, like your Cage Warriors and your Bellator, even all the lower shows, as well as, that's when it'll grow a lot faster, especially within the UK as well.
All right, thanks for your time today, Mike.
No
how can people watching this or listening to this follow you and keep in touch and with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Wilkinson MMA. Same again on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well as. So yeah, keep tuned. My life's a little bit quiet at the moment, but 2021 is going to be a good year for me. I'm going to get my head down, knuckle down, and hopefully get back to where I should be.
Right. Best of luck next year with your return to fighting, and thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot, mate. I appreciate it.